So you mentioned you've been breaking for, you were solid training for about 10 years breaking, and then jiu-jitsu for about 11 years. It seems like about an equal amount of time, dedicated to
Right.
trying to be your best in each one. And you're still going with jiu-jitsu, which is incredible. How would you compare the two as far as like just having your overall fitness and kinesthetic awareness, like body awareness? And it might be a bit biased because you did get into jiu-jitsu after having that breaking kind of background, but yeah, I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. It's a little bit tough, right? Because breaking I was pretty young and a lot more, I guess, athletic. I'm in pretty good shape right now, and jiu-jitsu is fine, but like, if I were to compare it, apples to apples, I think it's pretty similar. It really depends on you as an individual, on how much effort you put in, right?
True.
Yeah, with jiu-jitsu, you could kind of dictate the pace, right? Same with breaking, but then like it just depends what kind of b-boy you are, right? But
Yeah.
100% of the time in jiu-jitsu, you could control the pace that you're going at by slowing down your partner or your opponent, speeding your movements up, burst of energy. Um, and it's very similar to breaking, right? But I feel like, comparing, because I've been training like pretty hard for the last few months, jiu-jitsu, right?
Nice.
And when I danced the other day, like it takes a lot, to have to be able to dance with energy, and do like these kids today are doing like 2-minute rounds. I'm just like, what the heck? That's hecka long,
Yeah.
right? And I think the similarity though is like you got to have endurance, you got to have stamina, you got to have strength, you got to have technique,
Hmm.
right? But I think with jujitsu, at times, you might be having a bad day. You could go in and have a bad day and still feel like you worked out. Whereas like with breaking, a bad day could lead to potentially injuries, right? A bad day could be unmotivating,
Yeah.
right? You'll really need to push yourself. Your crewmates will really have to push you. But like in jiu-jitsu, right? Like someone's trying to strangle you,
Yeah.
trying to choke you,
So
trying to break your arm.
that is one of the
So
biggest
you have to do,
differences, I feel.
yeah, you have
Sorry
to
for cutting you
you
off.
have to defend. Yeah, you have to defend. I think both of them, you could be like, no, I'm just not going to do either, right? But then like once you're actually in there, the energy level is kind of forced in jiu-jitsu because you're forced to defend, otherwise you get caught, right?
Yeah.
You're forced to move, otherwise you'll get in a bad position. um Whereas breaking, like, you could go to practice, and how many times have someone has gone to practice and kind of did nothing the whole practice, right? You really have to have that self motivation to practice.
Yes.
And that's the same thing for jiu-jitsu, but once you get to on the mat, and you're training, it's kind of hard not to do work. But there are times where you could just keep people at bay and
Uh-huh.
kind of just relax and rest.
Yeah.
Like my style, I feel like it's a lazy style of jujitsu. And I think my energy and like all that stuff that we rely on breaking, I feel like a lot of that I spent on breakdancing. And so like now I'm trying to find my second win in jujitsu and trying to like, you know, be the best that I could be at jujitsu. But I'm not gonna lie, there's times where I force myself to go to jujitsu and I'm training, and I try to just rely on my technique
Yeah.
more than my endurance and my stamina and my athleticism. That's kind of what you have to do with breakdancing too. Going back to
Remember, right?
technique is yeah, it's still similar. It's just you know, sometimes if you're unmotivated to go to breaking practice with the crew, it's easy to just sit there and kind of watch, you know, or you know, do a move here or there. But like I think if you trained breaking like jujitsu, where you're just constantly drilling, um, and then go into like battle practice mode, I
Mhm.
think it'll be very, very similar to how jujitsu's structure is in terms of class. You know, when I used to practice breaking, it would be straight ciphering.
Yeah.
Be like an hour and a half cipher, and then another hour of, you know, me versus Natron, or you know, like we split up the room, and then we just do like a 4-on-4 battle for a half hour. Um, but we never really focus on really breaking down moves and trying to learn moves. At least for me, you know. But practice never really consisted of drilling when we were younger.
Yeah, again, because there's nothing out there sophisticated, right? Like systems, programming developed can afford that. There's
Yeah.
definitely the need for it. So just touching on that real quick, like for me to have consistent growth, you need to have small wins on those specific days, the hard days where you're tired, you're sore, you don't want to go, but you can go in there with
Hmm.
intention and strategy, right? Kind of like you said, that
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu approach where, shoot, if my groin is a little sore or tender, I can go in and do some myofascial and do some active recovery with that, and I can train different parts, the different
Yeah.
aspects of breaking, right? Whether it's mechanics directly or any of the different foundations of it, right? So having
For
intention,
sure.
having small wins, and making the most of each with biomechanics and understanding the body on that level, it's easy to kind of balance, to have a more
Yep.
balanced and intelligent approach to training.
For sure. You have to be tactical. You know, I think you hit it right on. You know, like with training dance or jujitsu, you have to go in there with intention and really just figure out, you know, what you can and can't do on that given day. Like, you know, if it's power you don't want to train, then you train footwork. If you don't want to train footwork, then you train power, or you know, whatever you want to do. Like, you know, because there's a lot more things or movements in breaking that
It's
doesn't take as
comprehensive.
much energy.
It's such a comprehensive movement methodology, right? And just
Hmm.
looking at the rudimentary influences, kind of like you said, like capoeira is one of the main ones I feel. But you got that, you got
Right.
gymnastics, you got kung fu, you got um, Latin dances, African dances,
Yeah.
yoga, and within that, like you could set up training, strategic training, which is one of my goals. Um,
For sure.
my collaboration with these PTs, these performance PTs.
All the stuff all the content that you have on your stuff, it's really good. You know, because I mean, even for your non-breakers, like everybody could do all the drills that you do. You don't have to specifically be a breaker. And you know, that's the same with a lot of other movement artists out there. You know, it's not really about a specific art form. It's really just making your body endure and learn how to do all these things and just practicing it. That way you're more mobile. You have mobility with all your joints, um, and you're more flexible. You know, and it kind of like for your stuff too. Like it kind of combines all those things that, you know, we that are all essential for all these different art forms, but putting it into one, because all these all the essentials translate to all these different things that we want to do. And a lot of it comes from the core, right? Core training, and just learning
Absolutely.
how to use that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, it doesn't matter if you're a b-boy or if you do capoeira or if you're a ballet dancer, whatever. So as long as you're moving, your body's going to be healthy, and you know your training program could help a lot of people.
Yeah, I firmly believe in that and am revitalized in my journey in breaking with that. Having the unconscious understanding of how we move, again, in relation to physics, and then now applying the consciousness to it, or I guess over the past 10 years with my collaboration with my brother, is revitalizing my whole approach, just based on the, not only my understanding in my practice, but on the rudimentary influences. Like I think as far as like peak athlete, mental and physical, I feel like it goes the surfer, the MMA or jiu-jitsu, and then b-boys, b-girls, breakers. As far as just having to be on kind of like what you said, like 5 dimensions with your movement and truly understanding your body's range of motion and ultimate like capabilities, right? Because specifically with breaking and jiu-jitsu can be viewed in the same light, where it's basically circular movement. We're creating vortexes in one way or another, whether it's directly through power moves or even footwork, or in anything, right? The circle is the max expression of humans, right? From every joint we create vortexes into combining systems of joints to do layers, and which I think is pretty much the hardest move. And then you got air flares, kind of up there with that.
For sure.
There could be an argument on which one's harder. If somebody were to train both from a slate, obviously like air flares came after, but breaking can benefit these other movement arts.
The last thing too is like, you know me as a dancer, I freestyle a lot. Everything is all freestyle, all the time. And that's kind of how I practice my jiu-jitsu as well, because I mean, you never know what position you're going to get into, and you got to find ways to get out of it. And I just freestyle the movements, and like I feel like if you focus on your body, the way we're talking about it, with like the mobility of all your joints and just really learning about your own individual body, all that stuff, all that freestyle just comes natural. And you really are able to test the limits of your body through a freestyle versus, just working on a routine, right? A normal routine. I feel like there's a lot of growth potential when you freestyle, but your body has to be ready for it. And so to be ready for it, obviously the stretching, the nutrition, the drilling, and just the strengthening and conditioning, all that is going to help your freestyle. Because I mean, even though we all have our sets, right? It's not always going to come out exactly how we wanted it to. And so with that freestyle mentality, whether it be jiu-jitsu or breaking, you're going to find your way out of that because your body is ready for that, because you prepared your body for that. And so
mind,
that's
ultimately, right?
And your mind,
creativity, kind of being able to find your angles and find your sequence and thinking ahead. I guess one of the main things that I want to finish off with, one of your instructors, you said that people transition easy from breaking into jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I mean, this whole discussion has been about the crossover, between the two. How do you think like breaking strength and mobility could benefit someone in jiu-jitsu specifically? Do you have anything? I think touched on it already. It's generating power from your core, which is everything, right? Everything comes from your center line, your power cylinder, essentially your torso, right?
Yeah, I think cross training in both worlds is definitely going to help, especially with you building a system out, not just for the b-boys, but just for everybody in general. A lot of the warm-ups in jiu-jitsu are kind of like breakdancing.
I see some stuff,
like they do this thing. Yeah, they do this thing called the hip escape. It's kind of like doing back rocks.
Kind of like the shrimp.
We do forward rolls. Yeah, shrimping. Yeah, it's like doing back rocks, right? And then
Yeah,
you go across the floor. We do forward rolls and back rolls and pushing up to the hands. Um, a lot of them do capoeira movements, right?
within jiu-jitsu.
I think you're yeah, and jujitsu as warm-ups, you know. I mean, even myself, I'll mess around and just start crawling around, doing like different things, or even doing footwork, right? But I think breaking would definitely help people, um, or doing breakdancing drills would help jujitsu practitioners and vice versa, just because it's very similar in movement, and you can't really see it if you don't know both worlds. But
Yeah,
if you try it, you'll only benefit from it because it's very similar.
I definitely wouldn't consider myself a jiu-jitsu practitioner by any means, but I am from the Big Island, where BJ Penn is from. So I do have a
Yeah.
lot of family that are practitioners, and every time I go, even my young nephews at this point, they ring me up, and then after they show me some stuff, oh, come here, uncle.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you could definitely see it though, right?
yeah,
The
for sure.
translation, yeah, translation through moving.
I guess creative ways to interact with the ground and ground control would be the overall kind
Yep,
of like idea of how we could benefit, right? Because when you say shrimp and stuff,
for
it's how
sure.
we can position ourselves and move in relation to the ground.
That's a transitional move too,
Transition.
the shrimp, and just like back rocks are too, like it could be a transitional move. I mean, everything's a transitional move if you apply it in that manner, right? But you know, a lot of the movements always just remind me, of breaking, when I'm doing like the warm ups at least, hopping over each other, climb or crawling through the legs, and
And even circling, right?
the
Like
back.
circling around
Yeah,
to
yeah,
find an
for
angle and
sure.
the opening.
We're always focused on opening up the hips, and basically getting that whip too, from the legs, generating
Like
power from the legs, kind of like a windmill.
like a windmill.
That
Interesting.
pendulum I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Those warm ups we all do against the wall where we're kicking, swinging our leg back and forth.
Yeah.
Uh, trying to open up our hips. Yeah, like I mean, that's a big part of like the open or the closed guard and trying to improve positions. So
So sick, man.
yeah, it's. I mean, the thing I love about it is the ability to be so creative, just like dance.
As opposed to breaking, we have the music. Uh, in martial art,
Yep.
jiu-jitsu, you guys have that other person to kind of like help guide and be creative off of ultimately, right? Yeah, I respect the shit out of jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general. Like I said, that's like right above breaking, I think. Obviously, it's been around longer, and it is one of the influences to breaking, right? Martial arts.
Keep doing your thing with making a system out of all the movements. Like I just love movement. Like it's always been a part of our creativity in dancing to find different movements and try to be creative, right? Not keep yourself in such a box, and you know basically you release the animal in you when you dance. Everything doesn't have to be circular. It doesn't always have to be about footwork. There's like so many different movements that you can make it look sick,
Yeah,
and breaking. For a lot of people, and a lot of people b-boys might disagree, but I just feel like breaking is a tool, and it's a blank canvas for me and myself as a dancer. I don't always claim to be a b-boy or claim to be a house dancer. I just claim to be a dancer, and like dance is a blank canvas for me to paint and really bring in all my emotion and bring in all my inspirations wherever it might come from, because I get inspired by a lot of different kinds of dancers. And like I said, capoeira, jiu-jitsu, the circus, you know, all types of dancers, you know, ballet, lyrical, contemporary. I bring all that I love, you know, that I think is beautiful, and kind of create something of my own that's beautiful as well. And that's, you know, that's where I find the beauty in dance, and the reason why I'm passionate about dance. It's not because I want to get that sick ass, you know, six step or 90, you know, I want to move. I
Yeah.
want to move beautifully where people could understand it, and at the same time can't understand it, but it opens up their minds to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it's more than just breakdancing. It's more than just you know, choreo. You know, it's a way of telling our stories of where we come from and who we are, and the struggles and the good things about our lives. That's what dance is to me. And I apply the same concepts to like jujitsu. You
Yeah.
know, with my
Expression, right?
movement, yeah, I'm trying to get my point across, you know, and just applying those same concepts to life, and how to be better, um, better than I was yesterday. So, you know, I've learned a lot from dance, and a lot of the same concepts I'm I'm seeing in jujitsu, but I already know those concepts, or those life lessons, because I've been through it with dance, and you know, they're the same stuff, you know, same concepts, different art form, but it's all good, all movement, which I love.
And it shouldn't end when you have a kid,
Nope.
or when you have to get a job, or when adult pressures come into play.
You got to make time, you know. You might not compete on that level, that you wish to compete on, but you know, do it for the love of music, do it for the love of, you know, being healthy and having mental health and mental clarity. If this is your outlet, because everybody has to have an outlet. And so if dance is your outlet, dance. If jiu-jitsu is your outlet, go train. um, you know, whatever it is that gets you there, where you know, you forget about all your problems, and you just focus on that.
Yeah.
You know, it's been like an escape for me, you know,
Yeah.
to go do these things. As much as I love it, you know, like hanging out with the boys and practicing, or hanging out on the mats with my training partners, it's kind of like another world, another dimension, you know, to give me that peace of mind and that mental clarity, and just put it all out on the mat or on the dance floor.
It's beautiful, that transition right there for you going into the extremely creative and self-expressive side of dance, and seeing it translate
Yeah,
into jiu-jitsu, and you seeing longevity in it, and talking about all these things that you might not have seen as a child, like nutrition,
yeah,
mental health, all that stuff. It's, yeah, like turning your life for the better. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being a human is expression, and also finding your potential and contribution,
yeah.
and you're doing it, man. So much respect, Kerge.
Thanks for having me. Keep
Give
doing
me
your thing.